are Dave and Kelly Davis. Obviously, those of you that know us know that we've done a lot of real estate up here in Illinois for quite some time. We are moving down to Gulf Shores in
11 days.
11 days. So we'll be down there, and we got started moving down there, obviously, because we have a short-term rental down there, and we love it down there so much.
And it's right here in my background.
Yes, it is. So we are both licensed realtors in Illinois and Alabama now. I am also a licensed mortgage broker in multiple states: Illinois, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, quite a few. So, but yeah, we decided that, in real estate, we don't have any 401ks or retirement plans. So for us, real estate investing really is our retirement, and it's our way to build some wealth, long-term wealth for our family and for us. So that's why we're so excited about it, and why we got started. But we just want to kind of share a little bit about what we do and how we got started with it, and kind of the whole process. I know we have a lot of questions on, how do you identify markets? How do you identify properties that would be good cash flowing? How do you get financing for them? Once you have it, how do you manage it? So we want to kind of go over a broad overview of all of that to hopefully give you some general direction. And then obviously we'll have a Q&A after, and we are always around for phone calls, emails, text messages, whatever. We're happy to help. So with that, I think.
Okay, I'm continuing to admit a few more people here, but yeah, let's go ahead and start a screen share with. Basically, we're going to cover financing, how to analyze a market, how to analyze a property, and then how to self-manage.
Yep. All right. So some of you may have seen this before. I did a short video on this that talked about different types of loans that you can get for investment properties. Mm-hmm. And so the easiest one for a lot of people to start out with is a 10% down second home loan. That's the one that we started with because it only takes 10% to put down for the home loan. So let me just kind of get into these. So it's 10% down loan. It is a conventional Freddie Fannie type loan where you are going to still have to be based off your debt to income ratio. So for those of us that have debt to income ratio left, we can utilize this loan to buy a second property. And it's really good, again, because it's only 10% down. And your cash on cash is going to be a lot better return. Now, with this type of loan, you do need to stay under 50% debt to income for conforming loans or 45% for jumbo loans. So we can kind of go over that. And you are telling the lender that you are using this truly as a second home or a vacation home, right? So you're not going to do this as just an investment property only, where you never plan to go there. You are going to use it personally a portion of the year.
Which is fantastic. It's like forced vacation.
Yes. Now, we do sometimes run into issues where people don't have enough debt to income ratio left, right? You're over that 50% or 45%. So then we can look into doing 15% down investment loans. And these are also Freddie Fannie type loans. But what we can do with these is we can use 75% of the projected rental income to go ahead and offset that new mortgage payment, right? So if your property's costing $1,000 a month of mortgage and it's $1,000 a month of projected rental income, they're going to let us use $750 of that to offset. So it's really going to only add $250 a month to your debt to income, not the full $1,000. So that is a great option as well. Outside of that, the better option, if you have a little bit more to put down, is a 20% down investment loans. Main reason this is better is because there's no MI on the loan, so it's going to cut down on that extra monthly cost of just kind of some wasted money. And you also get better rates than the 20% down. So those are kind of the three main loans that are Fannie Freddies. And then if you can't do any of those, right, like you don't have debt to income, or maybe you're self-employed and you don't have that income to show, on tax returns or whatever it may be, then we can do what's called DSCR loans. And these ones are really cool. It's a commercial loan product. And basically, these are going to go off the projected rental income of the property. So if you have a property that, is bringing in $2,000 a month and the mortgage payment's going to be $1,500 a month, it's covered, right? As long as that rental income covers that mortgage expense, we can qualify you with these. Now, there's probably 10 different investors that I work with that do these DSCR loans. A lot of them are going to use this 1007, which is going to be a rental income analysis. So we do need to be cautious in short-term rental markets because sometimes we can be off with rental income.
And that's part of the appraisal.
It's part of the appraisal. Yep. Other investors do allow us to use short-term rental income which helps us to qualify for more on those. So those are kind of the main loan products that we do. I don't want to go too depth into this because I already did a video for this and I can talk to you more, but that's basically some of the financing of how to go ahead and get into that. So why don't you kind of...
I mean, I guess the only other thing I'm wondering about on that is like, what other places do people get their down payment funds? Like if you don't just have it liquid in savings?
Yeah, so a lot of people, a lot of investors I've been working with lately are doing HELOCs to get their down payment. Obviously, with the way that real estate has appreciated lately, there is a lot of equity that people are sitting on in their houses. So people can get HELOCs and use that.
That's a home equity line of credit.
Yes. So people can do those to get some cash, right, that they can now use as down payment. Typically, when you do that, we're probably looking at a DSCR type loan because as you take out more lines of credits, your debt to income ratio is going to decrease. Some people can do it without, but it is a great option for that. Other people have borrowed against 401ks, retirement accounts, that type of thing.
Yeah, partnered with other people, found a second investor kind of.
Yeah, partnering is a great option as well. So, you know, the structure, we won't get into that tonight, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, you can partner with people 50-50s. Maybe some person is more of the money, some person is more of the management side of things. So there's lots of different options as far as partnering goes.
Yeah, so when you're looking to grow into, you know, having 1 and then 3 and 5 and 10, that's usually what holds people back is having the down payment funds, because you can use those DSCR loans like crazy.
Yeah, you can do almost as many DSCR loans as you need.
All right, so let's move on to analyzing the markets. So when you think of different markets, a lot of times you think of wherever you vacation regularly. I'm sure there's some place in the family. Sometimes it's a local lake. Sometimes it's, you know, you drive over to the coast, depending where you are. It's often big cities have, like here in Chicago, a lot of people go up to Lake Geneva. So that's like another little micro market. But there's pros and cons to both the large markets and the little micro markets. So on the micro side, I think you can probably get yourself a better price point. Usually they're not quite as expensive as some of the vacation markets. You have a little more control, I think. Sometimes they're more year round. So there's definite pluses to going with the micro market, and you'll use it more. I mean, something like that's really nice. For us personally, we were just looking as an investment. We wanted something that was historically already a short-term rental market, and it wasn't going to be like the zoning's already in place for that. And you might look up a house and think, okay, well, it doesn't have any restrictions, but that doesn't mean that it has the zoning in place for it. Right. So if you have, take our Gulf Shores market or Pigeon Forge market or there's so many.
Poconos, Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, all these
Orlando.
big, well-known vacation markets. They already they count on the lodging taxes. They need that money to come in to help support the city. So it's already in place and it generates revenue for the city. They're thrilled to have those people coming into town. So there's just no way, there's no little like HOAs even that will cancel it out all of a sudden and suddenly change their mind and say it has to be 6-month rental. They're already, for decades, have been that type of market. So that's kind of what we were looking for when we were choosing markets. And then, go ahead.
Yeah, so within that though, you do need to be a little bit cautious and make sure that you find somebody that's knowledgeable, find an agent that's knowledgeable of the area that you want. Because even within Gulf Shores, there is patches where they do require like 6-month rental or year rental. So there are some spots. So there's a huge part that's all short-term rental market. That's primarily what it is. You're not going to long-term rent those. But just north of those properties are a lot of properties that do not allow short-term, or it has to be a 30-day, or you know, best case scenario in some of those is 7-day, which is kind of easy to work with for short-term. But you do have to be cautious of that. If you're looking at micro markets, like I know Kelly's sister Molly, who I think is on here, she has a great one in the Lake Geneva area, and she's in one of the areas where you can have short terms, but there are some areas in Lake Geneva where they will not allow it. Same thing like Michigan City, New Buffalo. If we're kind of looking around Lake Michigan, where we've gone a lot of those cities are becoming very tight on those. And really the reasoning behind is that as more investors come into the marketplace, it really drives those home prices up. And then people that need to live there and work there can't afford to actually live there anymore. Like the whole Pigeon Forge, Sevierville area, people that work there, it's very hard to find affordable housing there because all of that is a short-term market. The Poconos is kind of another huge one as well. Kissimmee area. So there's lots of areas. So what I would recommend is, if there's a place that you really like to go for a vacation and you would like to have an investment property, I would contact an agent there and see what the rules and regulations are. I would call up the city and ask them, maybe check their planning and zoning board meetings and see if there's been any talk of it. Some cities are becoming more non-short-term rental friendly for the fact that they don't want just vacationers coming in and out. They prefer to keep it a family market. So and if anyone has questions as we're going along, feel free to type it in chat, and I'm watching chat on my side, so we can kind of run through that.
Yeah, the last couple points on the slide here is just that if you're in a larger market, there are short-term rental cleaning companies that do that for a living. They're used to the one-day turnovers. They have calendars linked to our Airbnb account, and so it gets automatic notifications. They have all the little shampoos and all of that stuff there. They provide the linens, and so it makes it pretty easy when you have companies that are used to that style of cleaning. And then when you're purchasing, the houses in those markets often come fully furnished, like decked out down to decor and plates and forks and knives. And so that's a big plus because that does add on to your money, your down payment a lot. They say on average about $10,000 per bedroom would be a kind of an average count of what it's going to cost you. So you buy a 3-bedroom house to rent out. If it's not furnished, it's going to be about 30 grand probably minimum. Yeah. So that's one thing to consider. And then just general overall, when you're analyzing properties, you're going to get better data to understand your income projections through places that have a lot of data, obviously. So it's a little bit harder to judge some of these smaller little lake communities and stuff on what you'd be able to make on them. So just know that.
Yep. All right. So what is a good deal? So this is where the really in-depth analyzation comes into. So once you've identified, a market or a couple markets that you're interested in, now we want to dig in a little bit further and see, okay, what could a house potentially bring in for me? So there's a couple revenue projection sites out there.
I always like to start at the very beginning with the 10% rule.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's the go-to. Like a property shows up. In fact, one showed up today for $1.1 million.
Our neighbors in Gulf Shores.
Our neighbors in Gulf Shores. And I'm like, okay, it must be both sides of the duplex. That actually would be an okay deal. And then I look a little further into it. It's only one side of the duplex. It's the same size as ours. It would probably, it doesn't have a swimming pool. It would probably bring in 80 grand a year.
80 to maybe 90.
And like, that's just not going to cut it. It doesn't fit the 10% rule.
Yeah, so the 10% rule is, so, right, if it's a $500,000 property, you'd like to bring in at least $50,000 per year of gross income. Now, what I will say is with interest rates, the way they've gone up a little bit over the past few months, the 10% rule is not steadfast. You might want to look at a little bit better numbers. Yeah. And we'll get into that as analyzing numbers. But the 10% rule is kind of things, right? So $800,000 property, $80,000 a year.
Yeah, just as like is it worth even digging into?
Is it worth looking at? And the way that you kind of find this is some of these different sites. So Rever is, it's probably my favorite site. It's very easy to use. It's very cost effective. It is a monthly subscription. I think it's like $39 a month, but you get like the entire country. So if you're analyzing a lot of different markets, you can put in addresses for all these different markets and find property projections. And we'll show you a couple of screenshots of this coming up here. AirDNA obviously is one of the biggest ones out there. It's very in-depth with their detailing. You can put in property addresses as well. It'll pull up the rentalizer, which tells you what to expect for it. You can customize bedrooms, bathrooms, how many guests it's going to have. Same thing with Rever too. But AirDNA, you're buying per market, which can be expensive. I think what was Gulf Shores like?
I think it was like $99.
$99 a month
per market.
Yeah, but just for Gulf Shores. If we wanted to look at Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, we'd have to pay for Orange Beach. And then if we want to look at Destin, we'd have to pay for Destin separate. Where with Rever, you can pay for all of it. It's not quite as detail oriented as AirDNA. So once you really hone in on what market you want, it might be worth it to do the AirDNA. Before that, I would probably use Rever just to kind of get general ideas.
Yeah, and it's nice when you're actually analyzing a single property more in depth to use all of these and just kind of see where they land.
Yeah. So Rabu is another one. I haven't used this a lot, but it is another income projector that will be out there as well. Now, if you are looking in a mainly vacation rental market, you might see listings that will say like, house currently doing $43,000 of short-term rental income. That doesn't mean a whole lot to us or anyone, because people manage properties all different ways. Some people have owned properties for years. They haven't changed their prices. They bought the property years ago for $200,000. It's now worth $500,000. So they can afford to charge a lower rate. Maybe they don't use pricing software to maximize what their pricing strategies can get for them. So just because you see an income on a rental does not mean that's what you should expect.
I think that's like its minimum.
Yes.
Like it will definitely do better than that number.
Now, if you see a property that has absolutely through the roof numbers, they're killing it with income, then you might want to look a little bit further and say, okay, why are they doing so well? And could I match what they're doing? Maybe they have some special things they offer to guests that helps to increase their income. So, don't take what their current rental income is at heart. It's good to just kind of see it if it's there, but just because it looks low and you think, boy, that seems pretty low, run your projections on it. Here's one of the best things that you can do as well is comps from other STRs. So go on to Airbnb, go on to Vrbo, and then pull up the map area right around where you're looking and see what the other houses are doing. If you're looking at a 3-bed, 2-bath house, put that in 3-bed, 2-bath, or a house that has, can house 8 guests, put in 8 guests and see what pops up around the area. Look at their calendars, see how booked they are, right? Do they have a lot of open spaces left, or are they booked solid, through the months? What are they charging nightly rates? What are they charging cleaning rates? That gives you a really good idea of what to expect for what you should be charging nightly and cleaning.
And then just keep in mind that some people use that as a strategy that they only open their calendar up, 2 months. So it's hard. We had trouble with that when we purchased in November. We wanted to know what the numbers looked like in the summer, and there weren't a lot of properties. They were either older ones that were totally booked solid already, or they hadn't put that calendar up yet. And so that was kind of hard. So but so just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So in markets like that where, we're March through July, we make all of our money. And then, in the fall and winter, people are not really traveling to Gulf Shores because it's cooler there still. So if you're looking at what they're currently doing in September, don't expect that's what it's going to be in, May or June, because your numbers will be way higher than that. And that's where this Rever, AirDNA, those type of things, they'll show you the highs and the lows from that.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Other things to keep in mind too is what expenses are you going to have? The insurance expense. Do you need flood insurance? Are there city permits that you need? Certain fees that they're going to charge? Is there lodging tax? What's the lodging tax for the village, right? So Gulf Shores right now has a 13% lodging tax that's going to increase up to 16% over the next couple of years. So when you're looking at your rental projections, right, if you're going to bring $100,000 a year and you have a 16% lodging tax, 16 grand of that right away is going towards your lodging. So you've got to know those numbers as well to make sure that it makes sense. So, all right, I don't see any questions, so we're going to keep moving on. All right, so this is a very first screen for Rever. So this is the Rever for our place in Gulf Shores. So this is the analyzing what ours should do. So you'll see there's standard revenue and there's optimized revenue. What optimized revenue means is you're using a pricing software, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but something like Price Labs that does pull all of the historical data and tell you what you should be pricing nightly. And it will, night to night and week to week, adjust the prices for you. So when we did this, we had, our May, I don't remember what the average was, $300 something a night. And then there was also one weekend that was $700. And we're like, what the heck is this? Well, Hangout Fest was a huge fest that goes on in Gulf Shores, and Price Labs knew that that is a very high demand weekend that traffic's going to be there, so they have you up the prices. So using software like that really will help you to maximize what you can bring in. So the optimized revenue is going to be that. Standard revenue would be just, hey, my place books out for $350 a night every single night of the year round. I don't want to have to worry about dealing with it. That's more of standard revenue. And then obviously long-term revenue, right? And so we would never rent our place long-term, but that would be like if we signed a 12-month lease with somebody to rent, that's what the projections are. So it shows the cap rates that are based off of this, the purchase price, the revenue that's brought in. So it has all these reports. These are just some screenshots from it. But again, this is showing, monthly revenue, right? So this is the month of July, which is projecting about 20,000, just shy of 20,000. In June, about 18.
And we actually broke past those numbers.
We did much better in these months, but this gives you a good idea of what to expect. So again, if I was going to buy a house in Gulf Shores right now, I know I'm in for a couple slow months before things start to really increase again. So I might be able to get a better deal on price here because somebody's just made all their money through the summer market. They're ready to drop the house off and move on. Where if I pick up a house right here, I might be paying more of a premium price because it's going to start to cash flow right away. So it's good to kind of know the market that way a little bit. Again, Rever has my expenses at 46 and revenue at 1 here. This is a little bit low. I just did this really quick before, but it's close. We're about 50. Average nightly rate, average 531. And again, you can see in the months, right? So in June and July, averaging up here, almost $800 a month is average what people are charging. And then you get down to about $400 in November here, a little bit over in December. I think these are a little bit high for what we would actually be able to charge. But again, this is just kind of some projections to give you a really good idea of where numbers are going to be at. And then average occupancy, 63%. Again, it's more of a summer vacation market where if you have something more in maybe the mountains or Disney area, you might be at more of like a 80 to 90% occupancy because people are going there year round. So you can expect more activity. Okay, so management, how do you want to manage your property? There's a lot of different ways that you can go here. You can self-manage properties, you can hire property management companies. There's small ones and there's big ones.
Yeah, co-hosts, you can get a co-host just to handle your Airbnb and some of your guest communications.
Yep, so lots of different ways. We self-manage, so I think, are we just talking about this?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. So that's the route we went because for us, it was more about a vacation rental and being profitable, I guess, rather than having it as a vacation home. And I think if you are just wanting it as a second home and it doesn't need to profit so much for you and you don't want the headache or you have a really busy job and you don't have time to do any of this management yourself, then you might go another alternative. But so we use Airbnb is where we list our property. Vrbo is another one. Right now we just have it on those two. There's booking.com, or you could have your own lead pages and direct sites. And then we use a hosting platform. We use Hospitable. OwnerRez is another. Guesties similar to Hospitable, and then OwnerRez allows you to have your own booking platform as well. I think you can take your payments, or you can hook up payments and stuff through there as well. Now, Hospitable is like the central hub of the business, so we do all of our guest communication through Hospitable. That's where all of our messages are planned ahead of time. We have messages. Oh yeah, so here we have messages that go out automatically when somebody does a new booking, new inquiry. A person sends a request to book. There's a number of. There's when they're checking in, it'll send our passcodes and everything, and the Wi-Fi passwords. And then the first morning it checks in with them, and we give them a little tip about the house, like, if you notice this going on at the house, we have this one electrical outlet that goes out and you just have to push this button in a different room. And so little things like that.
Well, here's like our first morning message. So the first morning that people are here, they get this message automatically delivered to them. We don't have to send it. And
it's scheduled for 10 a.m. on their first morning after.
So so we 18 hours after the check-in. Hey, hope you're settled in, enjoying it. First floor bathroom, here's how you reset. If you haven't located outdoor storage, beach, all the stuff, right? So it's just a simple message that we can send out right away. And we don't send it out. Hospitable will actually send it out for us. The checkout instructions automatically get sent out to the guest 18 hours before their checkout. So this is really good. It integrates all the messaging that we need to do.
To all of the sites.
Yes, to Vrbo, Airbnb, Booking. We don't have Booking, but it would to that as well. The inbox is here, so you can see all the messages that you have from all of your future bookings, past bookings. Everything is all in here, so you can see exactly what you're dealing with.
Yeah, all the guests from all platforms. And then this also allows you to block the calendar from, if you get a Vrbo booking, it's going to go ahead and tell Airbnb that week is now booked, and it's going to block it out. So that's a really big plus also, so you don't double book anybody. That's very important.
Very important.
I haven't done that yet, thankfully, but you can see we're 100% booked here. We have all of our, and there's strategies on all of this. How many nights should you have as a minimum set? And then I asked, there were a couple open orphan days, they call them. And so I called the person before and after and asked if either one wanted to book that day, just to have it 100% full. And then you can also hook your price labs, your pricing software into Hospitable, and then adjust it, and it'll spit it out to all of these different platforms also. So it's kind of a really nice hub.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that is Price Labs. So Price Labs, this is once you have a property and it's listed on Airbnb or Vrbo, then you import it into the Price Labs, and the Price Labs will help with the pricing. This is important for couples that are getting it, or partners, right? If you're co-hosting a property with somebody else, have one person handle all the guest communication, right? You don't want to have like, the guest sends a message and I see it and I respond one way, and Kelly would have said something different, or she doesn't know I responded and then she responds. So having one person, so Kelly does for us, she handles all of the guest communications. I don't deal with any of that.
And we could alternate that too. If you're working like true 50-50 partnership with somebody, maybe you take half the year, they take half the year, every other month or whatever. I mean, it's kind of a pain to switch it back and forth, but I do think just having one person handling all of that is helpful.
Yeah.
And then you really just need to have a fantastic housekeeping company and a really great handyman or contractors. Having neighbors nearby is very helpful as well to kind of just keep an eye on things when, the 11 college kids show up and you think it's supposed to be a family and they tell you what's going on. So just to kind of having eyes in the neighborhood is helpful when you're out of town.
Yep. One of the huge things, I don't know if you have this different slide or not, but so if you have a market you have identified that you want to go into, go onto Facebook and just type in like, short-term rentals, Gulf Shore, short-term rentals, Orlando, right? And you'll find Facebook groups of all short-term rental owners, and they'll all start talking about, oh yeah, I use for HVAC, use this company. For pool cleaning, we use these guys. This is the best housekeeping company. So you'll find a lot of your good references for these type of people through these private Facebook groups. Now, obviously, if you're in a market that's like a micro market, like Lake Geneva, you might not have huge amounts of people in there to share, but these do help out. Okay.
All right, go back to gallery so we can see everybody.
All right. Well, I didn't realize we actually have our Rever pulled up here. So, well, let's open this up for, question and answer first, and then we can show more stuff if need be. So I think for some reason, I think it muted everybody. You unmute all. All right.
It might just be chat questions.
I'm not sure. Well, does anyone have questions so far? Oh, okay. Do you feel it's better to have a place that sleeps a larger amount of people for smaller? Okay, so yeah, that's a great question, Jackie. So yes, it depends on the pricing. So on the pricing of the property. Now, the ones that sleep more people obviously are going to be a higher price property, but they're going to bring in a lot more revenue too. Typically, if you have a property that two families are going to be sharing, it's easier to charge a higher nightly rate, because if you have a property you're charging $500 a night that sleeps one family versus $650 a night that can sleep two, it's a lot easier for families to split that cost. So yeah, we had the idea, let's go as big as we possibly can for our first one to maximize how much money we can bring in, because we can only use one 10% down loan in each market that we go to.
Right.
So if we're gonna do 10% down, we can afford a much bigger, because we don't need that 20% down or 15% down payment. So yes, so I think getting a property that sleeps more definitely is worth it, but I wouldn't shy away from the smaller ones. Some of the smaller ones can definitely do well for you. It's just you have to really look at your expenses and look at any HOA fees. If it's a condo or in a community like that, look at those insurance costs to make sure that your numbers are going to work out. But it's definitely easier to put down 10% on a 300 versus 10% on a 600. So okay,
that's true.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay. Covered a lot.
Gail and Michael are asking about when you have the 11 college kids show up, what do you do? So they booked through, in this case, it was spring break. They booked through Airbnb, and it was their mother from Texas that booked, saying it was just her and her family. And then my little neighbor next door said, oh, the boys are so sweet next door. And I'm like, oh, boys like little kids with the family, or boys like a bunch of college kids? And she says, oh, a bunch of college kids. And I'm like, oh no. So we actually could just kick them out and not refund them through Airbnb, because there are no third-party bookings. The person booking needs to show up. But we actually she wanted us to let them stay. So we let them stay. And to be honest, they were not bad guests. Like, they brought a whole bunch of trucks and left sand everywhere. And that was fine. That was probably some of our better guests. Yep. That case is good.
But you do have the right to go ahead and you can ask them to leave. Yeah, I don't know why this is not unmuting anybody.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah. I don't know, Brian, we just put an ask to unmute on yours, but I don't know if it's going to do or not.
Can you hear me now?
No, I actually
okay.
can. How about that?
Scroll up. I think someone else was asking.
When you were talking about the commercial loan product
Yep.
with the LLC, is there any, was it 20% down with that or?
So yes, the commercial product is the DSCR. That one is 20% down. There used to be 15% downs on those. They have taken those away, and some of the lenders that are doing the 20% down are now requiring 25% as well. They're just seeing them as more risky type loans. So sorry, I gave everyone the chance to unmute if they want to ask a question. But yeah, so Brian, those are 20% down right now, and they are the commercial product.
And then along with that, with the other products, can you put your LLC as a co-signer or a secondary?
Not as co-signer. So if you're going to close in a Freddie Fannie type loan, you have to close it personally in your name, right? Those are personal loans. They're backed by your debt to income. Now, if you would like to quick claim into an LLC after you close, you can do that. What you need to be aware of is you need to be a majority owner of the LLC, right? So if you're partnered up with, say, 3 people and you took the loan on by yourself and now you quick claim it to your LLC where you're a 33% owner, the lender could call that loan due on sale, right? Because technically you've sold it to you've transferred the title to the LLC. You are not the majority owner of that. So just make sure that if you do transfer a personal into an LLC, you're the majority owner. And I would check with your lender first, your mortgage company, and make sure that they are okay with that, because nobody wants to get hit with a due on sale clause.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Challenges, obstacles. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go first on that.
I mean, I think it's a challenge number one, finding a property that cash flows right now that we don't have to hold forever, at least in Gulf Shores. That's probably always going to be an investor's biggest challenge.
So we offer transparency. We offered on, well, not you've told people before, we offered on 9 different properties before we actually got one. So obviously real estate's been very competitive. And now with prices higher and interest rates higher, you need to really work your numbers and make sure that things make sense for you. We do have a client, I don't know if she's on this call or not, that we got our property under contract for her, and it's a great deal. I thought the property was underpriced, and her numbers are going to blow our numbers out of the water if she rented it full time, and she got it for less than, she got it for what we paid for ours as well. So there's still deals out there. It just takes a little bit more work to find them. And then when you find it, you've got to be ready to jump on it right away.
Yeah, when the rates were in the 3%, every deal worked. I mean, there was literally you didn't have to be super careful really, because all the deals worked. So now you actually have to do the work of running the numbers. And then as far as like, I guess the other side of it, I think is just for me, it was setting all of the stuff up. Like getting your account set up with to pay your lodging taxes through the state, and making sure your permits are set up right, and then making sure your housekeeping company is showing up, and you just keep asking yourself, like, who do I call to fix this problem? And if you just keep asking yourself that, you will find the right people to call to fix your problem. We've already called our pool company and fired a pool company. We're still on the same housekeeping company, thankfully. I think we've had a handyman out. We had an air conditioning guy out. So knowing those connections is an obstacle as well, but it's not really that. It's the same thing as you would do for your own house if you didn't know who to call for something. You know?
Yeah, right.
Go on Facebook.
It really is, because we're just calling contractors. So like, you know, we had the guest tell us, oh, the pool looks really green right now. So we had to call the pool company, and then they realized that the pool pump wasn't working. And so we had to get that fixed. And then it took a couple of days to clean up the pool again. So we did refund some money to some guests because they paid extra to have a property with the pool and they couldn't use it for a few days. So you're always going to run into issues like that. It's the same as, you know, any property you own, you're going to have issues that come up. I think as far as the actual booking it, getting people to book, and once the software was set up, it actually ran a lot easier than I think what we had imagined.
Well, you just need a little extra time to get it all set up. And then once you're set up, it runs really pretty smoothly. Then you're just doing guest communication and handling inquiries that come in and answering questions. Do you have beach chairs? And then when people ask you the same question 3 times in a row, you add that, you backtrack, and you put that into your notes somewhere ahead of time. So it's kind of, once you get it up and running for a while, then it's really good.
What kind of tech do you put in the rentals? So
We don't really have anything.
I mean, we have smart TVs in every bedroom in the living room.
Nest thermostats.
Nest thermostats. Yeah, I mean that's the Nest thermostats and a Wi-Fi smart door lock are probably the two essentials for if you're going to self-manage, because you have to be able to give access codes to guests. You want to see if they're opening the door, if they're closing the door, right? You want to know when they're coming in. The thermostats are huge. That's how I knew our upstairs AC was not working properly, because it'd be midday and it'd be 78 degrees in the upstairs, and I was looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about this? So I knew there was an issue that we need to get fixed. So smart thermostats, smart locks, those are huge. Outside of that, it's really how many amenities do you want to give to your guests, right? I mean, do you want to offer waffle making stations? Do you want to offer coffee bars? Like, how fancy do you want to get, or how basic do you want to get?
Yeah, they have guest books that are like virtual. A lot of people do a camera at their front door too, as far as tech side goes.
Yep. Okay. Yes, I do use a mortgage calculator, and then so Rever does ask you about price, like what's the value, and then I think it semi-calculates what that cost is going to be. But yes, I use a mortgage calculator. I can send mine to everybody if they want to use that. But any mortgage calculator basically will get out there. Really knowing what the rate is and knowing what your insurance costs are the two biggest things for that. Because if you're in the Smoky Mountains, you're paying like $600 a year in property taxes and maybe $2,000 in insurance. If you're in Gulf Shores, you're paying maybe $2,000 a year in property taxes and $8,000 a year in insurance, right? So huge difference in what the cost can be. So you have to know those numbers to punch in your mortgage calculator too. So, okay, COVID questions when you're done with the above. Did you have a specific one on COVID?
Yeah, chime in, Brian, if you got questions. I just got an alert today, I think, from Airbnb that's no longer an extenuating circumstance as a reason to cancel. And I was celebrating that.
They have been dropping quite a bit. It was a huge concern for people. But honestly, COVID interest rates were not letting me unmute again.
Might have to just be a one-time thing.
Yeah, COVID and interest rates were a huge bump for the short-term rental market, because people weren't able to travel as much. People didn't want to get on flights, so they were doing more short-term local driving distance things, and they just want to be by themselves. They would go get a property, on the beach or in the mountains, and just kind of stay by themselves. And interest rates were low. That's kind of a big thing that was there. But no, we haven't really had any COVID problems.
No, and we recommend travel insurance, and we keep pretty strict on our cancellation policy. We haven't actually had anybody cancel.
No. Not gonna
you touched on a lot of what I was going to ask, but another point I was going to inquire on your opinion is, do you think COVID increased the market for short-term rentals, and do you see that being a problem on profit in the future when other travel destinations aren't so restricted, such as like Disney World and stuff like that? Or do you kind of see this as the wave of the future? Just if you thought about that, or what's your thoughts on that whole, like trying to calculate the profit down the road, if you think COVID affected that pretty drastically in the last 2 or 3 years?
Yes, it absolutely really inflated numbers for what short-term rentals were doing. If you look at statistically like 2018, 2019 numbers versus like 2021 numbers, there's a huge increase for sure. I don't know that, I could see it leveling off a little bit more as people are, start traveling more, maybe international again, exploring more areas. So
I mean, it's going to vary by market a lot. The markets that have more short-term rentals now than ever before, like I could see maybe the Smokies, they have more rentals, so I could see that changing prices. Now Gulf Shores is such a beach bound market. I mean, there's only so much land, and they're already like all condos, so I don't think there's going to be adding a lot of extras. So I feel like that's going to stay the beach markets, I suspect, would stay pretty stable.
Yeah. So, and again too, like you have to look at certain beach markets. Like we ran a lot of numbers in Myrtle Beach because we were kind of interested in buying short-term rentals there, and the nightly rentals didn't really make sense with where prices are right now. We really wanted to get a place there. My sister she's thinking about maybe going there at some point. So we thought, well, let's look at that. And I think part of that is there's a lot of hotels around there as well. So when there's a lot of hotels in an area, people have
they,
more
like,
options.
butt heads.
Yeah,
too.
so
Hotels
people
do not
have to
want-
drop that nightly rate down a little bit to compete with the hotels.
Mhm.
Where, and like Kelly said, in the Smokies, we saw a huge increase in new construction builds, and everybody wants to get a short term in the Smokies, and prices are sky high. And I would be very cautious. I mean, if there was a deal, I absolutely would take it, but I'd be very cautious about overpaying there because there's so many new builds and so many people doing it. And again, it is a total Airbnb short-term rental market. So I don't think it's ever going to be a bad market, but I would definitely be cautious with my numbers based off of that.
Yeah, I'd run it more on the 2019 numbers than anything else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cassie, yes, Hospitable does connect to the Schlage on code lock. If you can find one, you won the lottery. Because do you want to be unmuted, Cassie? I don't know if you do.
Yeah, they're hard to find right now, those locks, and they do change the code automatically to your guest's last 4 digits of their phone number, and it will do that automatically for you, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, we couldn't find the Schlage code, so we did the Quickset Halo, I think is what it's called, which is it's an app on my phone. I can get notifications every time the door opens, unlocks. I can change codes from it, but Hospitable will not change it for me like it does with the Schlage. So. Yes, ours did come fully furnished, which was great because again, we didn't want to have to spend a fortune on furnishing it. But if it's not furnished, that's fine. You just need to budget it in there. One of the things we didn't show yet that maybe we should have showed was this one. All right. Well, I don't know. It keeps doing this thing where it mutes us, but I'm going to see if I can do this one more time here. How did I do that last time?
I have no idea. Magic.
Share screen. I just do window.
Yeah, maybe just share the window.
All right. I think you can still see us. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is a rental calculator that Molly graciously put together for us. And we can share this with people, but basically this is, I may have done this on, I think I did this on our property. No, I didn't. This mortgage is too high. I was running another property. So anyways, but you can put in what your mortgage payment's going to be, what the property taxes are, homeowner's insurance, miscellaneous expenses, any lawn care, snow removal, internet, gas. So all of your expenses here to give you what your monthly, yearly expenses are going to be, what your upfront startup costs are going to be. And then over to the income side of things, we have the different sources, right? So Price Labs, AirDNA, Rabu, Rever, what their rental projections are going to be averaged out. You can change your lodging tax fees, your cleaning fees, how many cleans annually you'll think you'll have, and it will spit out for you your total expenses, what your year one startup costs are going to be, what your average net income will be, and then years to recoup, right? So 2.09 years to recoup your initial investment, and you're getting a 47.79% cash on cash return, which is pretty great. So we'll share the spreadsheet with people if you guys want, but this is a great one to kind of punch numbers in and just kind of analyze properties and see what looks like it's working and what looks like it's not working for you.
Yeah, those gross numbers always include cleaning fees and stuff too. And some people say that's fine because it's a pass-through kind of number, but honestly, it's kind of an income maker sometimes too. We get charged $250 per turnover from our cleaning company. We actually pay them $500 per year for linens as to buy the linens essentially. And then they store them, clean them, replace them as needed, and keep them looking good through the entire year. And they charge us $250 per clean, which includes like the little coffees and the little soaps and stuff that we decide we want to have included. And then we charge our guest $350. So we have a little buffer in there of $100, and that's great because sometimes we have, towels go missing or get dirty and things get broken. And so it's kind of covered in there already. And then we don't have to feel like we're nickel and diming our guests and asking them to fix things all the time. Like if it's under, what's the number? If it's under $1,000, $2,000, I'm not going to ask my guests for it. It's just going to happen. I'm just expecting it to be trashed.
Yeah. So Cassie, profits, really that's a personal thing. So again, like some people that buy vacation homes or rental homes, again, if you can cover your yearly expenses and use it for your vacation, some people are happy with that. From an investment standpoint, it really depends on how much you're looking to make out of it. I always like to have at least, over a 20% cash on cash return is kind of the numbers that I look for on the minimum side. I always thought it'd be great if I can get my money back in 2 years. With interest rates now, I changed my thought process more to a 3-year, return of initial investment. So if I put 65,000 down as a down payment, 10% down, I'd like to get that back within 3 years from the profit. So, but everyone has their own numbers. Really, for you, you've got to decide on what makes the most sense and how much money are you looking to make off of it. Some of them you might make a lot more. Some of you might make a little bit less, but it's a good place to be at.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're having somebody else pay down your house, for me, it was, is it worth the work? It's a lot of extra work to do a short-term rental versus a long-term rental. So it definitely needs to make more than a long-term rental would.
And if you don't want to do the work, that's where you could look at, bringing on a property management company, right? They might take 18 to 25% off the top. But if you don't want to have to deal with answering guest questions and sending handymen out and taking, whatever needs to be done, you can have a property management company do that for you. Absolutely. It's going to cut into what you make, but it'll.
Yeah, if you break even then and it's no work.
Somebody else is paying your mortgage off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else? If anyone wants to like a hand raise too, I can unmute you that way.
I don't know why we need to have everybody.
I don't know. I can't figure out why it's like that.
So strange.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
How did we end up in Gulf Shores?
Dumb luck.
Yeah, we were looking at a lot of different big markets. I knew I wanted to be in a vacation market, and I think my first thought was Pigeon Forge area because people around here go there.
Yep.
Of course, I love beaches, and so then I heard, well, Pigeon Forge is really expensive, and I don't know if I can afford a 10% down payment on some of the Pigeon Forge place that I would want. So I looked at what's a secondary market to that, and that was Blue Ridge, outside of Atlanta. And that's where we made our 9 offers, and we had 0 luck there. We just couldn't get anything under contract. It was really competitive. And then we kind of thought, let's just put a pause on it for a minute, see what happens here. And we started looking into some beach markets. And we first looked maybe towards Destin and kind of in that area. Same thing as Pigeon Forge. It was on a higher price point. And I thought, well, what's the next upcoming or slightly smaller market? And we kind of stumbled upon Gulf Shores.
Yeah, we were looking at Dolphin Island too, which is just west of Gulf Shores across the ferry, because their price point was really good was really cheap compared to a lot of the other markets. And then obviously Gulf Shores was much cheaper than like Destin and Panama City Beach. So, and those are great markets too. Yeah, Panama City Beach absolutely is a great market. People are crushing it there. I've done a lot of loans there.
You've done a lot in Orlando too.
Yeah, the Disney market. I mean, if you're looking for just an investment, the Disney market is great. That's a year-round market. Now you need to have like a themed house to make it stand out because there's so many short terms there. But that's a great one. Yeah, Panama City Beach is great though. Financing if they want to buy out of state. Yeah, call me. I can do like all states almost. The DSCRs I can do in 48 to 50 states. If you want to do a Freddie Fannie loan, I can do those. If I can't do it personally in my name, I can just run through, our company still. So no problem. I can help you anywhere you want to go. And by the way, I have really good rates now. I switched companies and I basically work for myself. So I set my own pricing. So I can help people out quite a bit.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if you mentioned that, but you've pre-approved like hundreds of investors. Yeah. That was his specialty over the last 6 months or so here. What else we have?
Yeah, I mean, it really, the timing of it. So again, if a good deal is a good deal, there's never a bad time to jump on it. But with interest rates, with house prices, you really just have to study the markets and then look at the properties and see if they make sense. There's a couple in Gulf Shores I have my eyes on right now, but they're just priced too high. And I'm hoping over the next few months, they're going to sit and they'll drop in price and they would make more sense from numbers. But again, like I said, we had a client that last week found an absolutely awesome deal and jumped on it right away. And I think they'll do very well. So my advice is just be very cautious. I'm going to throw some numbers out. Don't hold me to these if you end up contacting me for a mortgage, but the DSCR loans those are going to be anywhere from like 6.875% to like 7.25% right now. That's what I'm pricing those loans out at. So they definitely are up there. The 10% down second home loans are also around that same range. The second home loans used to be like in January, February, when I started doing this for investors, it was basically the same as a primary. We were closing people at like 3.25% with no points. All of a sudden, the Fed put on these overlays, the rates started going up, and we started pricing at like 6.75 with 2 points on the loan amount, which was crazy. I had people doing jumbo loans. They were paying $20-something thousand just to lock the loan, like just to get the rate. They had to pay that to lock it, which was insane. So you need to keep that in mind. Now I can do the loans without points anymore because I can price my own. So if I need to drop comp down, it's not a big deal at all. So we can take those points away, but you probably will still maybe have at least a point on a DSCR loan. Those ones are just expensive because it's a commercial product.
Tell them what a point means.
A point is 1% of the loan amount, right? So if your loan is $300,000, it's going to cost you $3,000 probably to get a DSCR loan. Again, don't hold me to that. That's what rates are at today, what I'm pricing at today. They could go up, they could go down. But as of today, when you run numbers for like a 10% down or a DSCR, plan it to be like around 6.875. If you have the money to do a 20% down conventional, you could probably be around 5.875, something like that.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, under 6.
Can you refi later to get a lower interest rate?
Yes, and that's what I tell people right now. Like if you're gonna find something, even if anyone's buying a personal property, like don't put points on a loan right now, because the chances are in the next few years to buy it down. Yeah, don't buy down your rate, because the chances are in the next few years rates are going to dip down a little bit and you can refinance at that point in time. So, because if you're paying $3,000 to drop your rate by 0.25% and then you refinance in 2.5 years, you probably didn't recoup the $3,000 from buying that rate down. So a lot of times it's not worth it. I can run the numbers for you and I'll show you exactly where they're at. But yeah, and I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if rates are going to continue to go up or continue to go down. They've been holding semi-steady right now. Even when the Fed raises the rate, like the last rate that the Fed raised, the rates didn't jump on that. They actually dropped a little bit that day. A few weeks later, based off of the inflation numbers, is when we jumped up like almost a point on primaries. That was crazy overnight. So there's lots of things in the market that affect it. The thing to keep in mind, though, is run the numbers at the current rate. And if it makes sense at that rate, do it. But don't do it at today's rate if it doesn't make sense, assuming that, in 12 months or 18 months or in 2 years, I'll refinance lower and I'll have better cash on cash return. Don't anticipate that. Make sure it makes sense at today's rates. And if they drop, great, you refinance and you make more money. Yes, get in touch with Kelly for the spreadsheet. She'll send it to everybody.
Yeah, if everybody wants. Well, I'll maybe post a link in that event group too. But yeah, if you don't hear from me or you don't find it in there, go ahead and shoot me a DM and we will make sure everybody gets a copy of that. Yeah, that's a handy little spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Well.
All right. Any other questions?
Any last minute questions? Otherwise, I think everyone needs to, that's my goal. Everyone needs to buy a house in Gulf Shores so that we know people. Because we're moving there and I don't know anybody.
Come visit us.
Come see us. Buy a house while you're there. Yeah.
So, all right, we'll stay on for a few minutes. If anyone has questions, feel free to stay on. Otherwise, yeah, if you have questions or you want to talk to us more about, certain market that you're looking at, analyzing properties, financing, yeah, just reach out to us. Email, call, text.